Eric here with Assembled Famous People in Attendance. We are talking mental disorders. And I had a couple of them up that are ones that have been proposed and or removed from the DSM. I thought those were interesting. We've already done the sadistic personality disorder, and we've already done the the I want to fail personality disorder. I forget what it's called exactly, but basically the gist of it was I want to fail. So I'm currently waiting for this to open up because I need to turn my camera off to facilitate that a bit. And it's still really slow.
Wait, are you doing it by prevalence of type?
Well, we're talking about the disorder in general. Here it is. In this one, let's talk about passive-aggressive personality disorder. So, passive-aggressive personality disorder. I'm sorry, did somebody say something?
INFPs.
I'm going to try to be nice to INFP because I made a song that accused them of throwing babies into wells. So, passive-aggressive behavior is the indirect expression of hostility, such as through procrastination, stubbornness, sullen behavior, or deliberate or repeated failure to accomplish requested tasks for which one is often explicitly responsible. So, the DSM describes passive-aggressive personality disorder as a pervasive pattern of negativistic attitudes and passive resistance to demands for adequate performance in social and occupational situations. So it's an interpersonal relations things, obviously, as most of these disorders are. Some of them could be isolative, like, oh, he just sits in the corner and picks his skin all day is a disorder, obviously. But most of the ones that people feel they need to deal with are the ones that annoy other people. Now, I would guess most people would find this very annoying. I'm already annoyed by this person and they haven't done anything. It says here, concepts in different areas. In psychology, passive-aggressive behavior is characterized by a habitual pattern of passive resistance to expected work requirements, opposition, sullenness, stubbornness, and negative attitudes in response to requirements for normal performance levels expected of others. Most frequently occurs in the workplace where resistance is exhibited by such indirect behaviors as procrastination, forgetfulness, and purposeful inefficiency, especially in reaction to demands by authority figures, but it can also occur in interpersonal contexts. Another source characterizes passive-aggressive behavior as a personality trait marked by a pervasive pattern of negative attitudes and characterized by passive, sometimes obstructionist resistance to complying with expectations in interpersonal or occupational situations, behaviors, learned helplessness, procrastination, stubbornness, resentment, sullenness, and deliberate, repeated failure to accomplish requested tasks for which one is explicitly responsible. So, according to Living with the Passive-Aggressive Man, a self-help book, a passive man does little to get what he wants, as it is too much effort to do so, and ranges from the inept loser type to the conformist who does anything to be liked, avoids making waves, and rarely says what he feels. So, I guess they come in two flavors. Any thoughts from anybody before we get into the conflict theory part? Anybody know anybody who's passive-aggressive?
I would say that in my natural state, unless I'm like really pissed off, I'm usually passive aggressive with a person. Or if I'm not threatened physically.
So if I were to, if you were at a party and someone were to say, "Hey, homie, great to see you. Let's dance," and you wanted to dance with her, would you procrastinate? Or is it just something that you do when you're pissed?
No, I only do it when I'm pissed.
Only when you're pissed. So you're not passive-aggressive when you're happy with somebody, right?
No.
Then you don't have passive-aggressive personality disorder. Congratulations, you're clean. I'm giving you a clear bill of health. Anybody else worried they might have passive-aggressive personality disorder? Nandi, you don't seem very passive.
Briefly.
What's that?
I just said very briefly when you brought it up. I didn't even know it was a disorder. Like, I knew that there was passive aggressiveness, but I didn't realize that it was a disorder. But I don't think I have it.
No,
I've been looking into that lately. What disorders do I have? Could I possibly have?
Yeah, I actually do that a lot too.
I'm just so concerned. Like, I'm just like, stop it, Nandi. You don't have any disorders. But sometimes I feel like I do. And then I look at them like, oh, I feel so bad for those people. I definitely don't have that. But
I thought I was a
anyway.
psychopath for the longest.
Luckily, you're not.
You've got special snowflake disorder, Nandi. You're an INFJ. Okay, let's go
I
to
don't like that term.
I know, that's why I use it, because it annoys INFJs. Okay, I'll try not to in the future. In conflict theory, passive-aggressive behavior can resemble a behavior better described as catty, as it consists of deliberate, active, but carefully veiled, hostile acts which are distinctively different in character from the non-assertive style of passive resistance. So that's going to be something like, oh, Joan, I think it's so wonderful that you got one of those. You know, pretty soon you're going to get one almost as nice as mine.
I wish I could go out in public without getting prepared like you could. I could never do that. That's amazing about you.
Right. Okay, that's a better one. That's much more well-veiled. Say that again. Let me hear you say that again. What were the words you said, Zachary?
It's like, oh, I wish I could go out in public without getting ready like you can. I can't do that. I have to get ready. I have to make sure I look good. But you
I just
don't
have
care.
to look
That's
put together. I am so impressed by your not caring about how ugly you are. That is so impressive to me. You are so hideous and you just don't even care. You are such a more developed person than I am. A little makeup would change everything, but you just don't give a fuck, do you?
I love how you rock the cheap haircut look. I really like that about you.
I want the scene to get like the lady's really dense, right? And the passive aggressive lady, the one starts with something that's really veiled, like your thing, right? And then she's like, "No, I'm saying you look like a fucking trash heap, and I'm proud of you for that. Do you get it yet?" There's like 4 or 5 incarnations of it. Anyway, sorry to get sidetracked. So anyway, the passive aggressive thing. Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, would you consider a really sarcastic person to be passive aggressive?
That's more like aggressive or active aggressive.
I think it depends on the context.
I mean, because passive
Like
aggressive
when they're
is supposed.
sarcastically throwing shades at you.
To me, the key thing in passive aggressiveness is you can't pin them down enough to call them out on it, right? So they're gonna do things and they're gonna try to make it so you can't actually say, "Well, you did this." They say, "Oh, I was trying my best. I didn't understand." You're not that stupid, right? Like that, you can't say that to them. So you go.
It's the you've gained a bunch of weight. It looks good on you. Compliment.
Right, and then they say, "But hey, are you saying I'm fat?"
Yeah.
No, I'm saying you look good.
You fucking agree.
Okay,
You're rocking
so
well. Yeah, it looks good. It's really
the
like,
thing is, hey,
you know, buff out your
hey.
complexion.
first of all, let me just say that, yeah, sarcastic people, you can usually call them out on it, right? So if I say, "Oh, that comment was really good, Zachary," you know, if I were to say it in words, that's the problem with text, right? It's like I was genuinely and very impressed with that comment that you wrote, but that's why I have to put exclamation points and shit. Otherwise, you might think I'm being like wry or something. I don't know. You know?
You did I just did that a few minutes ago.
You should be able to tell through text though.
I was arguing with Eric about something, and she's trying to convince me for like 30 minutes I was being sarcastic, and now in retrospect I was definitely being sarcastic, but I refused to believe it because I had spiked it all out to make sure I wasn't technically doing anything wrong amidst it. So
In the last argument?
yeah, I was arguing about something. Because we was watching
So
something on
obvious. You're just fucking around, dude. It was so fucking obvious.
Oh no, dude! I was like, not that. I was arguing with Erica because we were watching something about uncontacted tribes, and like these two people were having sex, and it was like really, it was like in the middle of a fucking tribe, like everybody was watching, and she was like, "How could they do that?" And I was like, "We're fucking animals. We are primates." Erica.
Well, but they're obviously not uncontacted if people are filming them.
Well, I don't know. It started with uncontacted tribes and ended with like me being interested in all the cultural things that impact how much we interject as a culture, our sexuality, and make it more important than it actually is. Because it's just
you know what's hilarious is all the indigenous nudity. This is an incredibly crazy term, right? So when I used to have TV, I had DirecTV, and one of my favorite shows, I would record it whenever I saw it was coming on.
I had indirect TV.
Oh, you had indirect, huh? One of my favorite shows was the Indigenous Nudity Show, and what they do, and they'd say, it'd be like, parental advisory suggested, Indigenous nudity is shown here. Okay, look, those are tits. Those are tits on that woman. Okay, they're not indigenous tits, right? It's fine to put them there. I'm not saying you shouldn't show the boobs. I'm saying great, you're showing the boobs, wonderful. That's why I'm watching your show. I'm not watching your show for the anthropology. I'm watching your show exclusively for the boobs. Fine, great. But to claim that somehow it's okay because it's indigenous is the most... I don't like to ever use this word, but I have to use it. It's so fucking racist. Like, why is it okay? If there was... I'm going to get an indigenous tribe of hot blonde white chicks and put a TV show together and say, don't worry, everybody, it's indigenous nudity, and see how that flies. Everyone's going to love the show, but nobody's going to buy my indigenous nudity explanation.
It's like the Playboy Mansion. Like every episode before like a Playboy Mansion thing, it just says it's like a Playboy Mansion.
Indigenous nudity. Yeah, these are indigenous peoples of the Playboy Mansion.
Oh my god! Can we get back on the topic, please?
Oh, we're not talking about indigenous nudity? What are we talking about?
Sarcasm.
Oh, sarcasm.
Difference between sarcasm and passive aggressive.
I think passive aggressive does not have as much of a humor value as sarcasm does.
There's different kinds of sarcasm, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
there's sarcasm that's directed at a third party is going to be perceived a lot differently than sarcasm directed at you, usually, for one thing. Like, a lot of people say sarcastic remarks about a third thing. It's like, that store, oh yeah, they got great deals there. You know, one time I went there and I got ripped off. That kind of sarcasm is going to be perceived as more facetiousness, right? Like, it's just a way to express that your thought by reversing it. But then sarcasm that's legit directed as an attack, it doesn't really matter whether it's sarcastic or not. So if, like, let's say I'm at the office and I'm like, you know, Barry always fucking leaves his coffee on my desk when he comes to talk to me, and then he's like, okay, well, it's nice talking with you, and he just accidentally leaves his coffee on my desk day after day after day, right? And then
Fucking Barry. That guy's a fucking asshole.
Barry has poor SI. It's not his fault, Zach. It's his poor SI. Okay. He's what's the other kind?
ENFP.
Yeah.
He's an ENFP.
Yeah, he's an ENFP. So anyway, he leaves his coffee every day there, and then I say at one point, you know, I'm walking over there and say, your maid service is here, Barry. I've brought your coffee back for you. You know, that's going to be perceived a lot differently than.
That's like extreme, like, asshole sarcasm.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, it really depends on the kind.
Or like the next day, he's carrying coffee, puts it down, he's like gesticulating, telling you a story, and just like, oh, don't leave me another present today, Barry. And he's like, oh, haha, sorry about last time. You know, that's like good-natured sarcasm.
Right.
But then like bad-natured to be like, oh, Barry, I just love you brought me this nice cup of coffee. I was so sleepy. I just wanted to be woke right up. I wanted to go get my own, but I was too tired to. So
Or-
you left me yours on
or
my
hey-
desk.
Hey,
On
Barry, hey,
I would be fucking
your
terrified if
herpes,
someone-
your herpes isn't active right now, right? I can drink out of this cup. Yeah, I think that-
Oh, that was
across the office, right? And it's like, what? Just for
Wait till he
leaving,
gets
just
to
for
the
leaving
farm
my
and
coffee
yell
cup
at
on your desk, you accuse me falsely of having herpes? Anyway, the other thing you could do, you get one of those things that stop the birds from landing on stuff. You know those little spikes, little spike balls. They put it on top of like a sign or whatever, little spike balls, so the bird won't land on top of the sign. If you keep your eyes out for them, you'll see them all around. But if you never noticed them before, then you probably just don't notice them. But
I'm
anyway,
just thinking about those booby traps.
you get one of those spike balls, you put it on your desk where you set the coffee down, right?
Indigenous booby traps.
And he goes to set it down. He's like, "What the fuck's that?" And you go, "I don't know. Someone keeps leaving their coffee there, so I put a spike ball to stop it." That's another way to do it. There's lots of good sarcastic ways to bust Barry.
utilized in a good way through, like Hami said, that's how me and my friends interact for the most part. I've noticed that the sarcasm, at least in all my friend groups I've had in the past, has almost been utilized to kind of keep everyone self-aware. Like, if you started getting, like, too arrogant about a certain subject or like, your own ability, like, your friends will just be like, oh, you want us to start sucking your dick now or later? Or, you know, like, shit like that. It's like little comments that keep you self-aware to make sure that, you know, you don't step out of line of the group or whatever. Utilized correctly, it can be beneficial.
Well, and I think we see it here when we get teased a little bit. I got teased a couple times for using certain words, if I use them too often, right? And that puts a check on that. I mean, there's lots of social checks that I rely on to tell me, you know, if I need to do something better or whatever.
Yeah, it definitely is useful in that.
Trenton, any thoughts, musings?
On what?
What are we talking about? I don't know. Sarcasm.
We're talking about-
Sarcasm. We're talking about sarcasm.
Passive aggressive.
Yeah, we're talking about you know, how to be more sarcastic.
How to be more sarcastic.
Mm-hmm.
Be funnier.
Funny
I
or
think
not
NTs
necessarily
are
sarcastic?
naturally sarcastic, along with SPs.
Are you suggesting that ENTPs are sarcastic, Connie?
I feel like sarcasm is more unrealistic.
Of course.
Was that
I mean,
what I
at
did
least-
earlier?
At least the ones I know in real life.
What, ENTPs?
Yeah.
ENTPs
Yeah.
They're probably the worst.
We're
Yeah, they
sarcastic?
are.
We're not sarcastic.
And INTJs to a lesser extent.
Listen,
Aren't-
Every
aren't
But
they
at least like the
sarcastic?
ones that
every word from
Like
my
they do.
mouth should be taken as straight up, literal, subtext free, pure, communicative gold. Okay? There's not a speck
Uh-huh.
of
That's the thing.
sarcasm
Would
in
that be
anything
considered
that I do.
sarcasm? My transcendence?
What?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's sarcasm or you're trolling.
What's
Is there-
sarcasm?
Okay, so we got trolling, passive aggressive, and sarcasm. I don't know.
Do you think
Oh,
you're
Wait,
tro-
isn't it trolling?
I don't think ENTPs
Sarcasm?
are sarcastic,
Let's talk
but-
about let's make a video where we more organizedly talk about trolling, sarcasm, and stuff. This will be a good sort of setup video for. Let's do about a 10-minute quick, actually on topic video on sarcasm and trolling and stuff. Okay.